Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Nick, and today I'm taking a look at A Quiet Place from 2018. As you know, part 2 was released this year in 2021 after a few delays, but it's finally out there. I will be reviewing that film as well, but first I'm going to take a look at part 1. I'm a big fan of creature features, so this was right up my alley when it came out. I have seen it multiple times. So I decided, let's sit down and review this bad boy. Before I get into it though, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content and want to see more. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can go ahead and buy me a coffee. Link to that will be in the description. You can also find a link to my letterbox in the description as well. Let's get into A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place was released in 2018, stars John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, and was directed by John Krasinski as well. So the basic plot of this film, guys, is in a post-apocalyptic world, a family is forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that are ultra sensitive to sound. And that's basically the plot to this film, guys. We just get to see a day-to-day basis of what these guys have to deal with, which is very dangerous and brutal, I might add. And really, anything can go wrong at any given moment for this family, but they try their best to cope with the situation that they're in. Right off the bat, I just want to say I think they killed it with the setting in this film. You really feel like you're in a post-apocalyptic world when you're watching this. Great world building. Whether you're talking about like the town that's like kind of overgrown now with grass and that, it's nature's kind of taking it back. And yeah, I just found it had really nice visuals. And I mean, the movie puts you right in the apocalypse. We start on day 89 for our intro, and then we move ahead to like 400 and some days in the future. So we never really do get to see how things changed or how it happened, the outbreak. But from what I see in the trailers, we find out in part 2. But this one, we dive right into the apocalypse. And right away, the movie lets you know they're not screwing around. There's a major thing that happens in the first like 10 minutes that it really takes your breath away. You're like, you just don't expect it to happen, really, especially this early on in the film. Basically, from beginning to end of this film, things are very dangerous. The tension is super high, and you do not know what to expect after seeing that crazy intro. I mean, it's a very dangerous world to live in, especially with a family with kids involved, you know? Kids like to play. It doesn't matter what situation they're in. They're going to try to have fun. One of these days, like, you know, they might be silent and follow the rules for so long, but they're bound to screw up, but they're kids. And it just makes things even more stressful for the family. Getting into the characters, I think they killed it performance-wise. John Krasinski plays the father. And while he may seem hard on his kids, you can really tell he's doing it just to protect them because he loves them so much. And, you know, as a kid, they don't really see it that way until later in life. And his wife in the movie is his wife in real life, Emily Blunt. And you can really tell because their chemistry is so natural. And I feel like them having that relationship in real life really helped with the family dynamics in the film. And she's really caring in that, and she's pregnant for most of the movie, which is really tough in this world that they live in. It's kind of the only thing I'm like, they probably shouldn't have fornicated and made a baby or got her pregnant because it's not the best time for that. But you know, what else are you gonna do in this situation? There's nothing else to do in this world besides try to survive, and you know, you're bound to get intimate sometime. That leaves us with the daughter and son. The daughter is quite the character as well. She's deaf, which is complete opposite to the monsters, the creatures, right? They're super good at hearing, ultra sensitive hearing, to her not being able to hear very much at all. And that's pretty cool when you got two opposites on each side of the board here. And yeah, she's a really likable character, and I feel like her brother, the son, is probably the most forgettable in this film. Although he does serve his purpose well and everything, it's just you don't get a lot to chew on with the kid, the son, while the daughter and the parents all have their own situations going on. And you tend to really feel bad for the daughter that's deaf because she essentially feels that her father blames her for a tragic death that happens early on in the film. and you really feel bad for her because she kind of blames herself as well. And it's like you realize that's not the case, but that's how kids think. And I thought they really brought that to the screen really naturally. And yeah, that's real life. And really, it doesn't just haunt her, it really haunts the whole family. Like, it was a pretty big situation that happened, and it made them rethink the way they live, I think. And the complete family bond, when we get them all together, I feel like it's stronger than ever. They sell it for me. I feel like this is a real family. And I'm really interested to hear from someone who actually is deaf that watched this movie, because there's a lot of sign language going on and very, very little dialogue, little to no dialogue in this film. So I think they'd be able to get by with just the sign language myself, and maybe it's the subtitles for the scenes that they talk, but there's barely any talking. Now let's get into the creatures a little bit, the monsters in this film. Like I said, they have ultra sensitive hearing. You don't realize how much noise you make just doing everyday things. Like just walking down the road would be too much noise. They had to put sand down. And just little clever things like this that they thought of when writing this movie that I enjoy. I mean, it's unfortunate that the creatures are all CGI. It does hurt the film a little bit, but I mean, I don't know really how else you would do it in modern horror nowadays. Like, yeah, you could use like prosthetics and like an actual suit or something, but it wouldn't really work, I don't think, nowadays. And it's just the way modern horror is. And taking out the digital effects and that, just the look of the creatures themselves, I'm kind of mixed on it. It looks fairly cool. They remind me of Carnage from like the new movie Venom Carnage, a little bit like a symbiote or something. But yeah, I think they look okay. Not my favorite look, but they're okay. And it's a little weird how when they're listening, like their brains open in that and their ears. I guess it's supposed because they're covered in so much armor, like their exterior. Not to say that these creatures aren't threatening. They're hella threatening, like crazy. Every scene that they're in keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like the tension is at an all-time high every time the creatures enter the room. And that's what saves it, I feel. Like, you can overlook the CGI when it's done this well. I mean, one scene in particular, the birthing scene, if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean, with Emily Blunt's character. That whole scene is my standout of the entire film. It's amazing. It's 10 out of 10. If the whole film would have been like that scene, this entire movie would easily be a 10 out of 10 for me. And yeah, it's just so intense and nail-biting. Like, wow. Like, the visuals from the blood in the tub to the creature going up the stairs, it's so creepy and it's just atmospheric. And going by modern horror, it's probably in the top 5 best scenes for me. If not modern horror, at least the last 10 years is definitely in the top 5 for me. As I mentioned, the father, John Krasinski, he also directed the film. And that's no easy task. He did it like a pro, though. It might have helped that he had his wife in there as well in the acting scenes there, but it must be hard to act and not be behind the camera, but still have to direct the scenes. Like, I heard Stallone talk about it, like with Expendables and that, and he said it's no easy task. You have to really have it all visually planned out first before you do anything, right? And on top of that, his directorial debut was with a film that had basically no dialogue. So the characters had to show you visually things, which is much harder than just saying it and explaining things. And yeah, he did an amazing job. There's nowhere where you're questioning what's going on or whatever. Everything is simple and just easy to see. Like I was saying earlier, they really thought of everything when it came to the sound design in this film. From walking with the sand and that, like I said, to the baby. Like, when you're going to give birth, like, that's like a really noisy situation. And they really thought of all the ins and outs for all the characters and the situations they're in with the noise. Like, in the sound department, they couldn't have done a better job. The only problem with that is I heard a lot of bad stories of people or bad experiences at the theater seeing this film. Because if you get one person talking or on their phone, it ruins it for everybody because the movie's so quiet. And honestly, this film, if you had to explain to someone what type of film it is, it's basically like Don't Breathe and Tremors mixed together, but while you remove all the humor and keep it super straight, serious, and it really adds to the mood and atmosphere when you don't play jokes all the time, and that it's a dead serious film. And I know a lot of horror fanatics would appreciate that. And if I had to mention any negatives, the only thing I could really think of on rewatch was the first act is kind of a little bit slower. It's never boring. It's just they're showing you the world and how it works. And on first watch, it's perfect because you need that stuff. But on rewatch, after you already know, it gets a little slow, I would say, for the first 25 minutes or so. Never boring, though. It's still entertaining and it's cool to see. It's just that it drags a tiny bit, I'd say, for the first like 20 or so minutes, 25 minutes. But once it gets going, it literally does not stop at all. Like, you could pretty much say the final act is usually your climax, right? The climax of this film is at like the 40-minute mark. And the film goes like this to the climax, and it just stays there, basically, throughout right to the end credits. There's really no downtime, maybe 2 minutes in between where there'll be like little scenes of dialogue and that, but it's mostly high energy and non-stop action. It feels like the final act starts 40 minutes in the film, and that's really cool, and you're really engaged at that point. Now, if we're talking about the very, very end, like the actual very final act, without getting into spoilers, I'll just say the father scene, the situation that he gets in, is beautiful in a tragic way. Like, it's hard to explain without spoiling it, but if you've seen the film, you would know that what he did really brought everything back, and it would help out the kids in the future, especially the daughter, knowing what she knows now and what the father did for them and that. And it's just perfect. It's a bit of a downer and a bit depressing in a way, but they're smart not to end the movie right there, because some movies would just end it right there. Then we still get more. We get like the whole mother side of things at the very, very end. And I think that really wrapped things up nicely and on a little bit more of a positive note, which was much more nicer than a little bit of the depressing note right before that. And that was a smart move. And the only other thing I got to mention is, I don't know if I just didn't notice this on this watch or I happen to be not paying attention to that part, but you know how there's the nail on the stairs? We see it a few times and then obviously the mother steps on it eventually. Why is that nail there? Like, the way the stairs is, it's like coming up through the stairs. So that would mean someone nailed it from underneath up. That always kind of confused me. I don't know if it's just something I missed, why that's there. But it is odd to me. It's like, that should have been never there in the first place. But guys, if I'm going to have to put a rating on this film, I'm going to have to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a great little creature feature, especially for modern times. We don't get that many great creature features anymore like the 80s and 90s. And I think this done a perfect job. It's beautiful, it's tragic, it's a little bit of everything, but it's serious and they play it straight. So, and that's why I think this movie really needed to hit home the messages in that. So what did you guys think of A Quiet Place from 2018? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know down below in the comments. I'll be coming back very soon with part 2. Haven't seen it yet, so I'll be watching it tonight or tomorrow. That review will be coming out very soon. And that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching.